Hello everyone and welcome back to the Memory Box project with me, Kate. Don't forget that you can pause this video at any time so that you can stop and have a chat with the people around you about the subject that this video is about. And today we are thinking about books and stories. I'm really pleased to let you know that I've got a special guest who's rather camera shy, but Laurie will be joining us at a couple of points during this video. Hope you enjoy it. Now, I love reading, and I've got a couple of very large bookcases full of books, children's books, adult books, reference, non-fiction, all sorts. But I've picked a couple off of my bookshelf because they're my favourite genre of book at the moment. Here we are. We've got David Jason and Paul O'Grady. Yep, two famous TV stars. They're autobiographies, and this is a type of book that I've really enjoyed getting into in the last few years. It's surprising the stories behind the famous faces, quite often things that you could never imagine. What's your favourite genre of book? Like me, is it autobiographies? Or maybe biographies written by somebody else? Maybe it's crime. Maybe it's a historical basis. Maybe you even prefer non-fiction books, so about a special theme or subject. Have a chat about it. Do you remember any of the books that you read when you were at school? Did you read Greek or Roman myths? They were always quite fascinating and very different. But there are also lots of modern classics. I've got a collection here for you to have a look at. I wonder if you recognise any of them, or any of them became your personal favourite. Now, when you look at your bookshelf, you might discover that some books have been there for rather a long time because they've got a special place in your heart. For whatever reason, it might be to mark a special event. So I've chosen 3 books from my bookshelf to share with you, and I'd like to tell you about them. So, the first book is actually a children's Bible. It's First Bible Stories. It's a beautiful book. It's hardback. It's tied with a golden ribbon, and when we look inside, very simple stories, but with most beautiful coloured illustrations. This book's special because it was given as a christening gift to one of my children, and when they have children of their own, this book will be passed on to them. My second book was a gift. It was a gift for Christmas, and here it is, Gnomes. Quite unusual, but again, it is full of beautiful, colourful illustrations, all about gnomes, all about what gnomes get up to, their stories, their well-being, and I've also got a companion book to this about fairies. This book's special. It's got an inscription in it. It says, Christmas 1979, to Kate, all our love, Robin and Ray. And that makes this book even more special to me because it's got that inscription in it. My third book is a classic novel, Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre. Now, this book I read for my O-level English literature exam, and it's probably my favourite classic book. And what makes it special is because I won it. I won it as history prize at school. So there's the book face in it, and it tells you why I got it. I got the history prize in 1981, and it's stayed on my bookshelf ever since. Some books are special purely because they are our favourites. So I've asked Laurie to think back to her childhood and share with us some of the books that she still has that she really loved as a child. Maybe you'll recognise some of these yourself.
So my first choice is Just William by Richmal Crompton. It's a 1947 edition, so it's quite worn and battered, but very much loved. I do have a number of Just William books, but I think this is one that I actually inherited from my mother. So William was just a boy that was always on the lookout for something to do, often accompanied by his dog Jumble. And he had a gang which called themselves the Outlaws. So there was Ginger, Henry and Douglas. And they just used to basically terrorise the local neighbourhood. So the books were all set in the era that they were published in. So they were first published in 1922 and they were last published in 1970. And William miraculously managed to stay 11 years old during that whole of the almost 50-year period. It was all jolly good fun, I thought. So the next choice is Enid Blyton, and it's Five Go Down to the Sea. Again, another quite elderly copy, which I think probably one of my sisters, or it could have been one of my children, managed to get to. So this is all about the famous five. They were a seemingly unsupervised gang, which consisted of Julian, Dick, George, who was a girl who hated being a girl and always wanted to be a boy, Anne and Timmy the dog made up the fifth gang member. They were lucky enough to go off quite gaily and have adventures that would horrify most parents today, but at the time I thought, how lucky are they? As long as they had enough lemonade and sandwiches, it seemed that the parents were quite relieved for them to have found something to occupy them in the school holidays. So the third choice is an Enid Blyton. This is Last Term at Mallory Towers. I think it's a 1967 edition. As you can tell, probably Enid Blyton was a staple necessity in my young life. And again, it's actually a paperback, so most of mine are hardbacks, but I've got quite a few paperbacks. So these stories provided adventures and escape, and I was always desperate to go to boarding school, even though I knew it would never ever happen. It was all a bit jolly hockey sticks, but it was my alter ego life after all, so one of my favourites. Right, so next we've got Black Beauty. This is by Anna Sewell. This is a copy I had for Christmas 1969, I think it says. There you go, 1969. I loaned my original copy to my cousin, and to my horror I never got it back, so I managed to get this copy. I think I saved up some book tokens from Christmas or something. So this story, what a heartbreaker. I still cry every time I reread it. So apart from loving horses, animals have and do provide me with unconditional love, and to me they show a strength of character that many people lack. They just get on with whatever life and any hardships throw at them. This book will take you through so many emotions. It's happiness, sadness, anger, helplessness, hope, and finally relief that Black Beauty finds his happy ever after home in the end. So that's a good traditional happy ending there. Now the last one, again, is quite traditional. It's one that I actually bought from my firstborn child in 1982. It's the Ladybird Toddler books, and it's just my day. Now all my children love books and being read to, and it was something I actively encouraged and I enjoyed as well. They're quite careful with their books, even at a young age, but inevitably some were sort of loved. So loved that they ended up being very worn. But after 38 plus years, I can take that as a compliment, I think. and some writing and colouring or scribbling occurred occasionally, but it's good to want to express yourself. But they're like a comfort blanket to read, so that even if daily life didn't go quite to plan, just like the book, at least you know what you should have been doing. So that's lots of happy memories. Hope you've enjoyed my choices.
Thanks for that, Laurie. I really hope everyone enjoyed your choices because I certainly did. Now, Laurie mentioned that some of her books had been slightly damaged by her children or her siblings. So I wonder if there were any steps that you were encouraged to take to make sure that books were kept in a really nice condition. Such as, first of all, I can think of was don't turn the corners of the book pages over because that spoils it for other people. And instead, use one of these. Yes, a bookmark. Now, this is a traditional leather one. It's a commemorative one that I was given about 9 years ago, and it has been used. I wonder what you use, because bookmarks can come in all shapes and sizes and doesn't necessarily have to look like this. Now, the other thing that you might have been encouraged to do that's familiar to you is to cover your book in brown paper. So it keeps the paper cover and the hardback nice and pristine and makes it more hard wearing. So, and it doesn't matter if somebody actually draws or writes on this paper cover, it can always be changed. So is that something that you used to do? I know books can seem rather a luxury to buy when money is short, and therefore I think we're really lucky in this country that we've got such a fantastic system of public libraries. Did you ever use a public library? Everyone is welcome to walk through the door. It really doesn't matter if you're rich or poor. There are books in boxes and books on shelves. They're free for you to borrow, so help yourselves. Come and meet your heroes, old and new. From William the Conqueror to Winnie the Pooh. You can look into the mirror or read the Times, or bring along a toddler to chant some rhymes. The librarian's a friend who loves to lend, so see if there's a book that she can recommend. Read that book, and if you're bitten, you can borrow all the other ones that the author's written. Are you into battles or biography? Are you keen on novels or geography? Gardening or ghosts? Sharks or science fiction? There's something here for everyone, whatever your addiction. There are students revising, deep in conversation, and school kids doing projects, finding inspiration. Over in the corner there's a table with seating, so come along and join in the book club meeting. Yes, come to the library, browse and borrow, and make sure it'll be here still tomorrow. Some of you may have been, like Laurie, a worker in a library. So we're going to hear from Laurie now about her experiences from a very young age. Let's take a listen.
Well, I first started in the library service as actually a volunteer. So I was in about 1969. So I used to go after school just to tidy up and help put books away and things. And I think then the senior librarian at the time, the children's librarian, Mrs. Loveridge, she could see that I was passionate for books and was happy there. So she then put me forward for a Saturday job, which I did about 1970. Then I went full-time after I'd left school in 1972 and eventually left the library service in 1999. My first pay slip was £3.17 shillings and something or other. That was for the month, right, on a Saturday. So the first library I started in was Aldershot. So it was a purpose-built building, but we had a museum on the top floor as well. So that was the Aldershot History Museum. That was in the reference library. It was very much a traditional library in the sense that we had the old catalogue files, and the reference library had tables and quiet signs everywhere. But it was very busy. What I would have to do in the early days was very basic. You put books away lots and lots and lots of times, and you do the same book lots and lots and lots of times. There's a lot of shelving. And then there's also processing new books, which everybody loved doing because they got to see what's coming in first, even though you couldn't take it. And And again, it was just dealing with public inquiries, and apart from the odd time when you were processing new books and things, you were in front of the public eye all the time, and you were sort of interacting with them, which is what I think libraries should be about. You got long arms in those days as well, because you aim to try and carry as many books as possible, so you didn't have to keep going back to the trolley. And if you were clever, what you worked out very quickly was the easiest thing to do. If you were shelving fiction or categories, you put them in alphabetical order in your arm, and then went round, and then you didn't keep backtracking. Or if you were shelving non-fiction, which was a Dewey system, so that was numerical, the numbers on the spine, you then put those in order on your arm, and then went off and round. So a bit like doing an organised shock, you only go round once rather than keep going back because you've forgotten something. So to take a book out, you had library ticket, and that had your name and address, and you were only limited to a certain number of books. And every book in the library had a catalogue card, which meant it was in a big main catalogue, and also it had a book number as well, which had a card in it. You would use your rubber stamp the date in it, take the card out from the book and put it in the reader's card, and then they will then get filed in numerical order, bearing in mind some of the times the books had 8 to 10 digits on them, so you had to do that all numerically, and then they were filed in date order. And when they came back, the process was reversed. It was a bit of a challenge whenever we had bomb scares, which were quite relevant in the 70s in Aldershot Library because of the military connections, because you had to take the whole catalogue with you. It could have been something like 80 drawers. You also had to take the whole of the issue trays with you as well, which were all the books that were out at that time, assigned to a person obviously in their ticket. You had to carry all those out, and that could be anywhere up to about 50 trays. I was lucky to be able to work on quite a few mobile libraries, and that was really nice because you got to know your readers and the destination. It was very much a social visit for them because a lot of them couldn't get into town, which is why we used to visit them. And we also used to go to nursing homes, residential homes, housebound people as well, individuals that were still in their own homes. But that was really nice because people were very appreciative of you, and you got to meet some lovely people. I had the opportunity to work in different libraries as I progressed through the system in terms of promotions and things. So I covered all of Hampshire because I was employed by Hampshire County Council. So I've been just about to every library in Hampshire. Sometimes only for a day. Other times I had the opportunity to actually start up the library in from the planning stage with the architects, which was very exciting, right the way through to opening it and running it as well. So I was very lucky. It was very varied. So you do get some funny incidents in the libraries at times. Then there was a time when we had gas leak reported, so we had to close the library down very quickly, obviously evacuate all the customers. We did a last sweep of the building, and I found somebody on their knees with a lighter looking at the thriller section because they still hadn't quite got what they wanted. You know, they were worried that we were going to shut and they wouldn't have a book to read.
Thanks, Laurie. That was really interesting, listening to your stories about your long career with the library service. Now, one of the things that happens in the library now, and has happened for a very, very long time, is story time for children. I wonder, can you ever remember going to the library to hear a story? Or did somebody else at home read to you? Bedtime stories are always a great thing to send children off to bed with so that they sleep well. Unfortunately, in our house, my mum used to go to sleep before we children did, so that task was left to my big sister. But I wonder if you had a different experience, if you shared this experience with maybe your own children. Have a listen to this and see if it brings back a memory or two.
The time is 1:45. This is the BBC for mothers and children at home. Are you ready for the music? When it ends, Eileen Brown will be here to speak to you.
Did you recognise the music to Listen with Mother on BBC Radio? Did you used to listen to it as a child? Or maybe did you share it as an adult with a child of your own? It was a lovely way to engage with each other. Now today I'm going to actually finish with a story. I've chosen a fable, Aesop's Fables, short stories with a moral to teach you a lesson about life. Now in true Listen with Mother style. Are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin. The Hare and the Tortoise. The hare was once boasting of his speed before the other animals. "I have never yet been beaten," he said, "when I put forth my full speed. I challenge anyone here to race with me." The Tortoise said quietly, "I accept your challenge." "That's a good joke," said the Hare. "I could dance round you all the way." "Keep your boasting until you've won," answered the Tortoise. "Shall we race?" So a course was fixed and a start was made. The Hare darted almost out of sight at once, but soon stopped, and to show his contempt for the Tortoise, lay down to have a nap. The Tortoise plodded on, and when the Hare awoke from his nap, he saw the Tortoise just near the winning post, but could not run up in time to save the race. The Tortoise turned to him and said, "Slow and steady wins the race." So the moral of the tale is, you don't have to be the fastest to complete something. Taking it slowly can give you success too. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed taking a trip down memory lane into the stories of your past and also thinking about the stories of your present. I'd like to say a big thank you to Laurie for her contribution to the programme, and I look forward to seeing you again in the near future. Take care. Goodbye. Download our resources at www.wessexheritagetrust.org/downloads.